Hey, Seth, thank you so much for being here with me. I feel so honored. I'm a huge fan of your work, and you are
You're very kind. Thank
probably
you.
one of the few people that I'm going to interview, but I do not have to do an introduction. But just in case someone in my community who doesn't know who you are the best-selling author of 19 international books that have been translated into 35 languages. And many of those books have transformed my life and many other people's lives. You are a highly sought after keynote speaker, international speaker, a marketing genius, and a high profile blogger. And most of all, you are an educator. That's what resonates the most with me. And your teaching, your blogs, your writing have radically changed how people approach and understand marketing, education, and life. I know my life as an educator, as a freelancer, an entrepreneur has been positively and radically changed by you. So I'm so
Okay.
honored that you are here and having a conversation with me. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thanks for the work you do. You don't have to show up the way you do, and you do. You show up and you show up. It matters. So thank you for
Oh,
having me.
oh, thank you so much. So it is very hard to develop questions for you because every single question has already been asked by people on planet Earth. So I try to structure our chat into kind of three categories: education, marketing, and life. So I want to
Okay.
get started with education first because this is something that is close and dear to both of us. And does this sound okay to you?
Go. Let's have a conversation. That's why I'm here.
Yes. So in many of your talks, you speak openly about the problems of our current education system. And I couldn't agree more with you. As an educator, I feel stuck. So a few years ago, you gave a very well received TEDx talk, and you asked this very important question: what is school for? And I want to hear your response to this question. And also, I want to know, how is your understanding of education influenced what you do as a marketer?
Oh, they're totally related. My answer to the question, which I answer in the TED Talk, is I think it's for two things. It's for teaching people to lead and for teaching people to solve interesting problems. Because if we have leaders who are solving interesting problems, almost everything else will take care of itself. But if someone else thinks school is for something else, fine. But let's agree that we should have a point. We shouldn't spend all of this time and energy thinking that the purpose of school is to pass a test.
Mm-hmm.
No one thinks that's what school is for. So why is that what we do? So in terms of how that's related to the way I think about marketing, and marketing is the way I think about this, marketing is nothing but the act of making change happen. That's what marketers do. If you don't know what change you want, then you can't do marketing. Well, education is the act of making change happen. And if you don't know what change you want, don't bother showing up.
Oh, I love that. Yes, education is about to make change happen. And speaking of marketing, you have so many books that truly impacted my life, as I introduced you earlier, as a teacher and also as a freelancer. And one of my favorite books from you is The Purple Cow. And you made a very good point that purple cows don't last forever, and they do become gray. And once they reach that stage, they have to reinvent themselves. I
Right.
just love this point like so much. And but in today's digital space, so many marketers and professionals, we are becoming plumbers, right? You made also that point. And and we follow specific steps, roadmaps, and to do certain things. So my question for you is, how can we become purple cows, and how can we become an artist when the education programs online and offline are teaching us to become plumbers?
Okay, well, first, again, thank you for such kind words. I'll start with this. A purple cow is not a gimmick. Regularly, I hear from people who do a thing that's sort of plumbing, and then they're going to do some gimmick to attract attention. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is choosing to do generous work that when people interact with it, they benefit by talking about it because it makes them feel like their status goes up, like they're paying it forward, like they're paying it back. So what we have to begin with is doing generous work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you point out that school doesn't teach us to do remarkable, interesting, generous things. But guess what? School doesn't teach us how to ride a bicycle either.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, lots of people know how to ride a bicycle.
That's a great point.
So, if you want the benefits, you need to learn to do it. And there are lots of ways to do it. I run workshops, you're a teacher, there are people in the world doing it, but mostly you do it by doing it, right? No toddler learned how to walk because they had walking lessons. They learned how to walk because they learned how to walk.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to do generous work that's worth talking about, it helps to begin.
Yes, yes, such a great point. And also this reminds me of what you have been talking about in terms of writer's block. And you mentioned, show me all the bad writings you have done, like how many bad articles did you finish, and show me that. It is through practicing and that we become closer to perfection, which does not even exist. So I really love what you mentioned here. And also talk to us about the differences between management and leadership. I love the distinction you made between the two.
Well, we all run into managers all the time. We need managers in our world because the industrial system can't work without them. And what it means to be a manager is to get people to do what they did yesterday, but faster and cheaper. That management and authority go together. Mm-hmm. You have to have authority to be able to tell people what to do. That is management. Leadership has nothing to do with that. Mm-hmm. Leadership is engaging with other people to have them help you solve an interesting problem that you don't know the answer to. And it's voluntary. It has to be voluntary. So there are managers who also lead, but people aren't going to follow you if you're a leader if they have to. They'll just do their job if they have to. What you have to do as a leader is get people to want to, and then you've got a shot at making a difference.
So are you saying that even if we are leaders, there are times that we don't have an answer, but we can still be leaders? Am I hearing you correctly?
I think you have to have risk and no knowledge. If you know the answer, then you should be managing, right? So if you know the best way to assemble a Model 3 car, tell the people you work for what to do. There's no problem to be solved. You figured it out. On the other hand, if you don't know how to, engage the populace in one thing or another, then you need to say to your team, I don't know how to do this. Let's work together to solve this problem. How are we going to figure out confronting and embracing risk, where the answers lie, who wants to come with me? That's leadership.
Well, that's remarkable. I cannot imagine myself going to my classes and tell my students, hey guys, I don't have an answer for this question. Let's go figure it out together. But I think I'm going to give this a try.
I think it's fantastic.
I think it does involve making yourself vulnerable. Is that also the case?
So vulnerable is a tricky word because in the comics, what it means to be vulnerable is that Kryptonite is in front of Superman and he could die. And I don't think most people want you to actually die. Mm-hmm. I think what we're looking for are people who are emotionally available. And that word has come to mean vulnerable, but they're different for me. So vulnerable means there's actually a defect here where the whole thing could fall apart. Emotionally available says, I care. I care about you. I care about this problem. I care about us. Amen. What will we do next? Amen. And I think humans like working with humans, and they like working with people who care.
Oh, I love this so much. And this is a perfect transition to my next question, because you are the person who introduced this concept of empathy and practical empathy into marketing? Because I never really associate marketing with empathy or practical empathy. So can you please explain this? And how do we kind of apply this in our day-to-day operations?
Okay, so a lot of people think that empathy means feeling sorry for other people, that it's a sort of soft, generous thing. So let's put that aside, not to be bad or good, just put it aside, and talk about practical empathy. So if I want to change you or lead you or sell to you, I have to begin by acknowledging, I don't believe what you believe. I don't know what you know. I don't want what you want. I'm not afraid of what you're afraid of. I wasn't born where you were born, and I'm not going where you're going. And that's okay. And the last sentence, and that's okay, is the key to the whole thing. Because if it's not okay, if I'm saying, and you're a loser and you will never get better, then why would you engage with me? You're only going to engage with someone who is giving you space to become the person you want to become. I can then add, but if you heard what I have to say, if you learned what I have to teach, if you saw what I have built, then you might change to the person who wants this, or then you might change to the person who gets that. Now we can engage with each other. That is marketing. But there is no marketing campaign that says, you're a loser, you're stupid, please buy from me.
Yeah.
That's not an option.
Yeah. Is that also what you are saying, that as marketers, we should stop marketing to people and at people? Instead, we should do marketing with people. Is that kind of in alignment with what
that's a great riff. You know, the thing is, if there are only 3 TV networks and I can buy a bunch of ads, I have enough money and power to market at you, because you have no choice unless you're going to turn off the TV, right? I own your attention. I bought your attention and I own it. But online, I can't buy your attention anymore. And so if I can't do this with you, then we're in trouble.
Yeah. That's a great point. I think for the past several years, and you have been teaching us, it is so important to share our message with those who care, who are believers, and who want to receive our message. I think that's one of the key takeaway points from your teaching. And so how do you think, where can we go to find or even create those believers? Because I feel like today in the digital marketing space, daily, I'm bombarded by this, do this, my email and all those. I have to apply a separate email inbox so that I can actually receive important messages. So where can we even go to find those believers? Or should we not worry about that? Just do good and quality work, like blogging. You have been blogging daily and hoping that others will come to us. So can you please?
I think it's much more likely that if you imagine who could possibly need what you're making, need it so badly, they would cross the street, so badly they would wait in line, so badly they would miss you if you were gone. If you could imagine who those people are and make something for them, they will find you. You don't have to spend a lot of time finding them. That most of the time we hear marketers whining, they're whining about the fact that their average product is having trouble getting average people to seek it out. Well, average people don't have a problem. They're not looking for anything. And average products aren't worth seeking out. So I'm sorry you're not selling more Jell-O than you sold last year, but Jell-O doesn't matter. So you're going to sell the Jell-O you're going to sell, and I'm sorry you can't run TV ads for it anymore, but that model is gone.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great point, which reminds me of your latest book, This is Marketing, that came out last year. I loved reading that book, and so many great points. And in that book, you also talked about niching down, like finding the smallest possible audience. And because I know many of my friends, including myself, I even had a coach who told me, you can't, that's too narrow. You need to serve more people, and that's how you can grow. So please explain this to us. I feel like there are lots of like
Nuance.
fear, yes, and misperception and nuances related to this concept.
All right, so you used one word that I'm going to disagree with, which is possible. The
Okay.
small possible audience is one person, right?
Yeah.
One person is the smallest possible number, because after that, it's not an audience, it's zero. But you can't live on one. You can't accomplish anything with one. So one is not viable. I use the term smallest viable audience, meaning what's the smallest number of people you need to support you for you to make this work.
Amen.
Whether this work is, stainless steel screws or being a musician. And if you can become a musician where there are 1,000 people, as Kevin Kelly has written, who care deeply about your work, that's enough. 1,000 is enough.
Yes.
But what we see are all these musicians who need 1 million because their ego wants it, and they end up with none because they made banal, mediocre music. Yeah. But then there are the specifics, the Patricia Barbers, the Surreal Mays, the people who are making music for a few. And it turns out that's enough. So that's what I'm saying, is if you can make it for enough people, then you have the momentum to keep making it. And if you're good, they will tell their friends, people you could never have reached. And so it spreads.
I think this also goes back to what we discussed earlier, to share our message with believers, because it is much easier to convert, so to speak, believers than non-believers. And those believers can share the message with others who are not believers. Is that kind of?
Exactly, because they are already on the journey. I use the word enrolled. You're a teacher, you know what enrollment means. Enrollment doesn't mean I'm on the list. It means I want to learn what you are teaching.
Yeah.
And if you're a marketer and there are people who want to buy what you are selling, go where you are going, then the work gets way easier.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, this is such a great point. And I wish every single marketer heard this, because everyone is bombarding every single person who are non-believers, who are not ready to receive the message, but they are still like annoy us on a daily basis. Yes, I think that's might be the problem that we are dealing with on a daily basis. Like, I just don't even want to check my email inbox anymore. Yeah, yeah. Such a great point. And speaking of your book, This is Marketing, and besides this point we just discussed, and there's another sentence that resonated so much with me. And you said that people like us do things like this. Oh my God, I feel this sentence perfectly summarizes the essence of marketing. So explain this to us.
Well, it's what culture is, right? Isn't culture, people like us do things like this? Isn't an exotic restaurant in New York a normal restaurant in Thailand? Isn't the way people line up to get on an airplane different in New York versus Tokyo? Of course it is, because people like us who are in this spot together, when we do this thing, this is how we do it. People like us do things like this. And so your job as a marketer is to figure out who the people like us are, figure out what the things like this are, and help the people like us change to be doing the things like this. So an example is, if you think about in the US, the situation with stray dogs and cats. For 100 years, the local shelters of the Humane Society and the SPCA killed all the leftover dogs and cats every day. They just killed them because people like us do things like this. That's the way it was. And Nathan Winograd showed up and he changed it, because he said, no, people like us make it so we never kill a dog and never kill a cat. He made a new standard for the culture. And he did it in a little tiny thing. He did it for 50 people in San Francisco. And then he did it for 100 people in San Francisco. And then he left there and he went to Tompkins County, New York, and he did it for 50 people there, and then 100, and then 200. And city by city, smallest viable audience, the word spreads, change the culture. People like us, we do things like this now. We don't do things like that.
Yeah, that's such a great example. And I'm going to ask you this question, and you are probably going to hate me. So are there certain steps that we can follow, or to establish new rules for people Or, no, skip that question. Because I totally understand every single point you mentioned from here, you know, intellectually, I understand. But like, this is so against what I have been
So
taught.
the reason you're asking is because you don't want to fail. And what we're saying is the only way to figure it out is to fail. This is like learning to walk or to ride a bike. Stop watching videos, stop asking someone for instructions, go do it, because then you discover, right? So you've been in the classroom for a long time. Sometimes you go into a classroom and kids are talking all the time. They're on Facebook, right? You'll go to a totally different professor's classroom. It's quiet. People are focused. Why are the two classrooms different?
Because the subject's different, the teacher, how the teacher teaches, the
The
students.
teacher established a standard. People in my class do things like this.
Oh, amen.
Right? Now, there's no easy right way to do this. You can't just do it with authority. There's just a cultural shift. Why do we do things like this? Who are the leaders? Where are the status roles? Are we looking at dominion or affiliation? Where is the tension? All of these things combine to create cultural constructs. So it used to be, just 20 years ago, if you brought your kid to a restaurant, your kid ate adult food. Now, if you bring your kid to a restaurant, your kid eats chicken fingers. What happened? How did that occur? Right? It used to be if a kid went to a restaurant, they engaged in conversation with parents. Now, kid goes to a restaurant and they're sitting there holding their device the whole time like this. How did that happen? So that's how culture changes, but it's not something that's done to us. It's something that's done by us.
Oh, amen. Such a great point. And I love how you are always talking about, how you talk about like resistance and fear. And I love how you define anxiety, which is experiencing failure in advance. Oh, I just love that. So can you please tell us why, as human beings, we have this strong urge to change? Why we're so afraid of things, to make teeny tiny changes? Why we're so afraid of doing things? Like, I'm a blogger. Every day I hear people say, I'm not a good writer. I'm so scared of starting. I run a Facebook live show and people, I'm scared of camera. I'm like, I don't look good, all those things. So talk to us about this, because I think I really see you as a philosopher, not just a marketer. And those are just like so many points I want to hear from you regarding like change, resistance, and fear.
Yeah, so first, full credit to Steve Pressfield. He and I had breakfast yesterday. He coined the term resistance. My life would have been different if I had read his book 5 years earlier. The War of Art, Do the Work. Go get those 2 books to start. Okay. Now, everyone who writes was a bad writer when they started. Everyone. So that's not what we're discussing here. What we're discussing is, do you care enough to be wrong on your way to making a difference? That if you want the anxiety, and I'm not talking about clinical anxiety, I'm talking about normal everyday anxiety. If you want the anxiety to make you stuck, it will make you stuck. Fine, that's true. And when you run the marathon, you will get tired. And if you want the tired to make you stop, you will stop. The people who finish the marathon, they're tired. They just figured out where to put the tired. So I can't make the anxiety go away. I can't make your fear go away. All I can tell you is, yeah, that means you're onto something. Now go ahead and do the work.
Yeah, oh, it's such a great point. And I think it reminds me of what you talked about before, like dance with our fears, right? So do you think, like just hearing what you are saying, like many of us, we become so obsessed with being so afraid of making mistakes that we even forget why we are doing this in the first place, which is to change other people's lives. Is that kind of...
So we go all the way back to the beginning, which is, you shouldn't do any of this because of greed. You should do it because of generosity. If you were walking past a lake and a little kid was drowning, you would jump in and save their life.
Yes.
Even if it was going to ruin your clothes, even if you might look stupid, even if you were on your way to a wedding and would be embarrassed afterwards, right? Of course you would. Why? Because you're generous. Because in that moment, you're not saying, oh, people will look at me funny at the wedding if I show up in wet shoes. You're saying, I need to do something for someone else. That is what marketing is. That is what leadership is. That is what we do when we make art. We're not saying, look at me, look at me. We're saying, how can I help you?
Amen. It's such a like almost like a paradigm shift, right? Like really like shifted our focus. And actually this is so true. That's how I overcame my fear of camera. You know, stop thinking about how I look, but start focusing on my message and how my message is going to hopefully influence and impact my audience.
Yes, you got it.
And talk to us about your approach to social media. This is a question that many people in my community, they want to know, because you don't seem to engage a lot on social media. And I don't know if you do this intentionally or like kind of unintentionally. So, and do you recommend this?
I do it completely intentionally. And it was a really good decision. And I would make it again in a heartbeat. Twitter is not a business generating tool. And Twitter does not exist to help the people who tweet have a better life. It just doesn't. And turning off Twitter will save you 10 minutes to 2 hours a day, and it will cost you nothing. That's easy. The one thing about Facebook, Facebook is a giant direct marketing situation. And if you are using it as a direct marketer and it's paying for itself, by all means, do it more. But if you are using it so you can see what people are saying about you behind your back, you're wasting your time. So I decided not to use Twitter or Facebook, except for when the institutions I work with benefit from it, because I want to be in charge of my day. I don't want them to be in charge of my day. And I don't want to know what people are saying behind me, behind my back. I'm much happier when they're saying it behind my back, because then I don't know. And if you can carve out an hour a day to write on any topic you care about and to share it generously, that's enough. All you need is that hour. Take it back. Don't give it away.
Oh, I love this. So, but there are so many people teaching social media marketing, and they advocate, you know, you have to be social and engaging, responding to all the comments. And so you think that's just not a practical approach?
Show me the proof. You know, there are people who have a big social media presence, but they aren't famous because they're on social media. They're on social media because they're famous. So, right? The Mona Lisa shows up on Instagram all the time, but she doesn't use it.
Amen.
People are talking about her. So you get the chance to do work that people will talk about. You know, so I make a podcast every week. And if you search on Twitter, you can see people talking about my podcast. But I'm not talking about it because I made something I own that's on my schedule, that's more than 140 characters. It's 25 minutes of audio, and I'm proud to make it. I don't need Twitter to tell me it's okay.
Oh, I love this. And this is even more effective when you allow others, encourage others, like they are talking about you, then you talk about yourself and create this.
They're mostly, actually, they're talking about themselves and using my work as an opportunity to talk about themselves.
So you are actually a conversation starter.
Exactly. So if you post a picture on Instagram of the Mona Lisa, you're not posting it because we don't know what the Mona Lisa looks like. You're posting it because you want your friends to see that you went to Paris, right? So she is a conversation starter. She's not the point.
Oh, wow, this is so deep. I definitely need to re-watch this. This is such a great point. Really challenges me and to rethink about how I use social media and how I can be a conversation starter. This is great. And we are just wrapping up here, and I definitely want to respect your time. So you are an amazing teacher. You have students from all over the globe, and tell us about your Alt MBA program. What is this about, and who is this for? And do you see this as a new paradigm in education?
Well, it's for you, and it's for a lot of people like you. We are now running a lot more of the workshops and seminars that I believe in. The Alt MBA is our flagship. It runs 4 times a year. It takes 30 days, 3 hours a day. 97% of the people who start it finish it. You have to apply to get in. And it teaches you 2 things, how to see, 3 things, how to see, how to make decisions, and how to help other people do what you know you need them to do. And people have taken it in 74 countries.
Wow.
It's a really powerful tool. I encourage everybody, altmba.com, check out the details. And then we're running these less intensive workshops that cost a little bit less, that have a different kind of interaction. So the marketing seminar launched a few weeks ago, and we're going to launch a new one about food on February 5th, and then some others to follow. I am putting my money where my mouth is and saying, I think education could be better. And here's an example of how it could be done. We are looking for people who are impatient, who are generous, who are trying to make a difference.
Oh, that's amen. Yeah. Be the change you wish to see in the classroom. Exactly.
There you go. Love that.
For one. Yeah, yeah. So here are just some really simple questions, 30 seconds if you don't mind. What motivates you to get up every day in the morning, Seth?
Meeting you.
Oh, I'm going to cry. Oh, thank you. That means so much to me. Oh my God, I think that's why so many people really love you and admire your work, because I just can't believe that you actually said yes to me. I'm like nobody. Anyway, sorry. So what is next for you, and what you are so excited about?
This is what's next. These workshops, we're calling them the Akimbo workshops, and I'm traveling way less. I'm focusing 100% of my time on helping people level up. So thank you for giving me a chance to talk about this work. But more important, thank you for the leadership you're bringing. Your students are so lucky to have you.
Oh, last question related to students. One parting piece of advice you want to share with students who are going through traditional education system. And I want to share this with my students.
Go make a ruckus. We'll see you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.